Welcome to Goblin Road Farm. We are making the azhive boxes today. This is the rough cut part. I am rough cutting them on my cutting matrix. I am making these out of 3/4 inch hardwood plywood. On the two ends, I am going to be making or cutting the side pieces. The side pieces are going to be 40 inches high and 25 inches deep. I'm using the two side pieces so I can get the nice factory edge on each, which is going to be on the part that people see from the inside of the hive, or I'm sorry, the inside of the house. I'm using a cutting edge so that the cuts themselves are pretty straight. They're a little choppy, but I am going to, for the pieces that don't have a factory edge, I'm going to make sure that I use the joiner to clean up the edge and make sure it's square. Okay, so the first side is rough cut. I'm going to just store this in the other room by where the bee house is. Next, I'm going to cut the top and the bottom pieces. The top and the bottom pieces are also going to be 25 inches deep, and they're going to be 20 inches wide. The rough cut is going to be probably about half an inch larger than that, so that I have enough room to clean up the edge and cut the other side with a table saw. For the pieces that contain the top and the bottom, as well as the two sides, there is enough left over at the end of the slice so that I can later on use that to make the door for the medium parts of the azhive. It's not enough to use for the deep for a deep frame part, but it is enough for the medium part. So again, I'm just using clamps to put the cutting edge on, and this will be the back piece. The back piece is going to sit inside of a dado channel in the two sides and the top piece. I'm not going to use a dado for the bottom piece because that's where the bees are going to have to uh, walk on the floor to get in and out of the hive. All right, the rough cut is done. Here I am going to cut the side pieces and the top and bottom piece to the same width. And I'm just using my table saw. I have the fence set. In reality, I have 12 hives that I have to make, so I'm actually doing this assembly line fashion. So in between camera shots, I'm actually doing this for all 12 hives. Yeah, there's the other half of the other side. I don't think I have footage of, oh, here we go. This is going to be the top and the bottom piece. Both the top and the bottom piece are going to come from the same slice. All right, now I'm going to use a cutting sled to cut the two side pieces and the top and the bottom piece. And I'm going to cut a 45-degree angle in each of them on the ends so I can have a nice miter joint. Right now I am putting some Johnson paste wax on my table saw inside the channel, so it should flow a little smoother. here I have an oversized cutting sled. The cutting sled is supported on the side by the cutting matrix and a piece of plywood that almost exactly matches the height of the table saw. And behind it, I have a sawhorse with an extension board that also exactly matches the height of the table saw. So it's completely supported for making this cut, because when I'm making a miter cut, it matters if a little bit of the front or the back of the cutting sled is up in the air, because then it won't be the right size, or the piece will be crooked. So I'm setting my stop block, and I'm going to just cut the first piece. Initially, I make the first cut a little bit large, a little bit longer than it should be, so I can check it, and then I'll probably adjust the stop block later on so that it's the correct size. But the initial cut is just a little bit big, so I can fiddle with it to make sure it's right. I have some resistance with the large cutting sled. I'm trying very hard not to make the table saw fall over, and I'm waiting for the blade to stop completely before I do anything, removing the waste piece or changing where the board for cutting. So I'm going to make an adjustment here. Just make it a little bit shorter. Looks like it's ready to go. I'm going to make another cut. Eventually, I found that it was easier, instead of pushing it with both hands, to hold it underneath with one hand and just push it with the other, so it doesn't have the danger of falling over. Checking the size. I swing it around the other side and make the miter cut here as well. All right, the first piece is cut and is going to be, I'm just storing them in the other room. All of the pieces for all the hives should be identical. And once this is set up, it goes very quickly to cut all the pieces at the same time, because they should all be interchangeable and at the same length. Now I'm setting the stop block for the top and the bottom piece. Double checking the size, flipping it around, making it a little bit shorter. All right, double checking the size, just going to store that in the other room for a minute. Heading the next piece. I just took the board into the other room to make sure that the two were the same length, and that they were. cutting this piece, and the two should be exactly the same width and length. All right, so now I'm moving on to the back piece. This back piece is going to fit inside the dado channel from the top and the two sides. So I made the table saw blade uh, stand up 90 degrees, so it's no longer doing a miter cut. And I am making the cut on this for the height. For the first cuts for each of the components, I'm very careful to double check the measurements so I don't have a whole bunch of incorrectly sized pieces. So now I'm going to cut the back piece to the width that we need. It's the right height, and now we just need to cut it to the right width. The edges aren't as important for this back piece because they're going to be hidden inside the dado channel, but I still ran this through the joiner to make sure the edge was straight and square. And now I am uh, ripping this piece to the correct length, or I'm sorry, the correct width. And that's the end of the rough cut. The next episode will be cutting the miter channels, cutting using the miter blade to cut the 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 opening in the back piece where the bees are actually going to come in and out. Use the joiner to put some biscuits. I'm sorry, the biscuit joiner to put some biscuits in the miter edges and clamp it together or glue it and clamp it together to make the box for the azhive.